If there is something in our body that we mistreat every day with our food and lifestyle, those are our arteries. When these vessels necessary for our survival reach a limit, they begin to fill with fat and obstruct the passage of our blood to vital organs such as the heart and brain. And this scenario is so frequent that the leading cause of death in the world is due to this reason. So I will explain to you what foods have shown to keep our arteries clean, which ones obstruct them, and how to apply all this without the need to resort to impossible measures in our day-to-day life. Today I share with you how to lower cholesterol and clean our arteries. Usually, the layer that lines the arteries from the inside, the endothelium, is anti-adhesive and prevents cholesterol, white blood cells, and platelets from sticking to it. That is, it repels them. But when our habits damage this layer, when it breaks down, cholesterol and these other substances easily deposit on it, and that is when these plaques form on the walls of our arteries, narrowing our vessels more and more. Thus, we can be years without having hardly any symptoms. But if one of these plaques breaks off, this piece travels through our entire bloodstream to a narrower artery. And it is here where our platelets, understanding that there is damage, join the area and are going to form a clot, which is going to block that artery and prevent the blood from continuing to give oxygen and nutrients to the organ where all this happens. And if the clot blocks an artery that feeds our heart, the coronaries, a part of the heart is left without oxygen and dies. And this is a heart attack that can happen in our heart, but also in the brain, what we know as a stroke or cerebral infarction. So when we talk about cleaning our arteries, we are referring to eliminating these accumulations of fat and other substances that obstruct them and cause the leading cause of death in the world. And the issue here is that there are foods that are capable of helping me clean my arteries to collaborate so that this does not happen. But it is fundamental that before we must know what foods make our arteries get clogged. First of all, we have sugar, and sugar in all its refined forms is undoubtedly a great enemy of our arteries. When we consume sugar, white, brown, panela, or cane, our body does everything possible to make good use of it. First, insulin will help glucose to reach our cells, which will try to use it to convert it into energy. But if we already have enough energy available, it will try to store it as glycogen in our liver and muscles. And this is when, if the glycogen stores are full and there is still an excess of glucose, what happens almost always when we eat pure sugar or foods rich in it, the body will give up and will convert this glucose into fat that will stay in my liver, my abdomen, and my arteries. The big problem with sugar is that it makes us lose interest in other flavors, and sugar activates the same areas in our brain that many drugs do. And artificial sweeteners are not the solution, because by perceiving them as something sweet, they also activate these harmful mechanisms. Therefore, the amount of sugar and artificial sweeteners recommended is 0. Clearly, I will be able to indulge myself sometimes in eating something with sugar at some celebration, and this will not make any difference to my health, but it will suit me to remove sugar from my day-to-day in all its forms, including honey, which is 80% sugar, cane sugar, or artificial sweeteners, which after all will end up doing similar damage as the worst white sugar from the supermarket. Secondly, we have unhealthy fats like many saturated fats found in processed foods, red meats, fried foods, and dairy products, and especially trans fats, which are fats artificially created by the industry and commonly used in processed foods like cookies, snacks, bakery products to improve their flavor, texture, and durability, and their consumption is linked to inflammation and accumulation of bad cholesterol or LDL in our arteries. And it is that cholesterol does not travel alone through our blood, but it is bound to proteins that transport it. Among them, we have this LDL that carries cholesterol from the liver to the cells of the body. And when there is a lot of LDL, cholesterol is deposited in the walls of the arteries. And in contrast, we have the good cholesterol HDL that cleans up fat accumulations in the arteries and takes them back to the liver. So, the consumption of these unhealthy fats is going to be the worst possible business because they increase my LDL cholesterol while lowering my necessary HDL. In third place, we have refined flours present in white bread, white rice, pasta, and bakery products. These flours come from grains that have been processed in such a way that all the nutrients along with the fiber have been removed, leaving only the inside part, the starch, which turns into sugar as soon as we ingest it. So consuming these flours ultimately leads to the same as eating sugar, that is, to sudden spikes of insulin, inflammation, and an increase in fat accumulation in our arteries. And now that we know which foods clog our arteries, let's see which are the foods that clean them and decrease our probability of suffering. a heart attack, or stroke. Firstly, we have foods rich in antioxidants. The variety in fruits and vegetables, with their different colors and shapes, is going to give us antioxidant and anti-inflammatory benefits in all our tissues and organs, helping us in that cleaning of our arteries. And it is that a good supply of antioxidants helps us prevent the oxidation of LDL cholesterol, making it more difficult to adhere where it does not suit us. And the key to finding foods very rich in antioxidants is to look for intense colors, since many of these plant antioxidants are precisely the pigments that give them color. Therefore, we must try to make our plate as colorful as possible by looking for food like reds, rich in lycopene, oranges and yellows, rich in carotenoids, greens rich in lutein and zeaxanthin, and purples rich in anthocyanins. Because plants produce these antioxidant pigments as a mechanism to protect themselves from adverse situations. In fact, in situations where that plant has suffered moderate stress, that is, it has received less water or has been at extreme temperatures, it generates more antioxidant pigments to survive, which makes it more colorful and more beneficial for the health of the consumer. And it is that we see in some studies that agricultural techniques that seek this controlled stress in plants, such as limited irrigation, increase the levels of antioxidants in crops such as tomatoes and grapes. In second place, we have legumes, a powerful weapon against LDL cholesterol and its accumulation in our arteries. First, because they are rich in fiber that binds to cholesterol in our digestion, helping us to eliminate it directly from the body without allowing it to be absorbed into our blood. Second, because it is very rich in proteins that are going to displace or replace animal proteins. And we know that by replacing meats rich in saturated fats, especially processed and red meats, with legumes and other sources of plant protein, our LDL cholesterol decreases, and with it, our cardiovascular risk. And third, because their satiating effect and their control of our blood sugar help us maintain a healthy weight, which improves the health of our arteries. In third place, we have whole grains like oats or brown rice, which are going to have a positive effect on our cholesterol levels. First, because we stop consuming refined flours and start eating the whole grain, preserving the fiber that is going to bind to the cholesterol in our intestine and drag it out of the body. And another fundamental element of the whole grain, compared to refined grains, are phytosterols, which are healthy plant compounds that also have a structure very similar to that of cholesterol, so they compete with cholesterol to be absorbed in our intestine, thereby reducing the amount of cholesterol that enters our bloodstream. And also, just as with legumes, whole grains are going to help us control weight, reduce inflammation, and control our blood sugar levels. In fourth place, we have healthy fats. They are fats mainly unsaturated that do everything opposite to saturated and trans fats. They are going to lower our LDL cholesterol in blood while increasing the HDL, protecting us from the formation of fat plaques in our arteries. We find these fats in nuts such as walnuts, almonds, hazelnuts, pistachios, and also of course in olive oil and avocado. And on the other hand, we have omega-3 fatty acids. And it is that omega-3 is going to be fundamental to hinder these deposits of fat in our arteries by helping us reduce our levels of triglycerides and LDL cholesterol, at the same time that it increases the good cholesterol or HDL. In fact, the balance between omegas 3 and 6 in our body is going to be crucial, since a deficiency of omega-3 and an excess of omega-6 predisposes me to inflammation of my body. And the three most abundant and important omega-3s are EPA and DHA, which are found in oily fish and some algae, and in the terrestrial plant world we have alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, in nuts and some seeds like flaxseed, which is then converted into DHA and EPA. However, here we must be cautious because the amount that is converted from alpha-linolenic to DHA and EPA is very low, only about 5 to 8% depending on our genetics and other factors. So those of us who follow plant-based diets would need massive amounts of these seeds or nuts to meet the daily requirements of omega-3. This has been a controversial topic until recently, but over the years evidence has emerged on the subject. And we have a review of studies from 2022 showing that consuming flaxseed supplements at high doses did not serve to increase omega-3 levels. That is, we see that it will be very difficult for seeds and nuts to be sufficient as a source of omega-3, and yet supplementing with microalgae oil did increase omega-3 levels in all studies, which is why many people who follow plant-based or predominantly vegetable diets choose omega-3 DHA supplements from algae. In fact, fish do not synthesize omega-3s but obtain them from phytoplankton, the set of microalgae, which is the basis of the marine food chain and which is capable of synthesizing omega-3 fatty acids such as EPA and DHA through photosynthesis. So if you follow a predominantly plant-based diet, you can skip the fish and go directly to the source by consuming these increasingly widespread microalgae supplements, with most nutrition entities recommending a dose of between 250 and 500 milligrams of a mix of DHA and EPA. And finally, we have a great bonus: exercise. It is undeniable that the plant-based diet is the one that lowers LDL cholesterol the most. We must remember that cholesterol does not exist in this diet, and when we analyze the routine of the supercentenarians, that is, those who reach 110 years of age, many of them, in fact the majority, have followed a plant-based or predominantly vegetable diet, but not all. There are exceptions. And yet, there is a common denominator, unequivocal, without exception from all these long-lived people, something that they all have done to achieve that iron health. And it is that they all did physical exercise practically every day. Because doing exercise, of course, the one that we are capable of practicing, but ideally aerobic and strength exercise, is the most effective measure to increase the levels of HDL cholesterol in our body while we lower the LDL and thus keep our arteries clean. Following the recommendations of this video while we stay active is undoubtedly the way to keep our arteries healthy. And thank you very much for staying with me until here. What do you think of these measures to clean our arteries? Do you practice all of them? Remember to subscribe to support me and keep watching more videos like this. Take care.